Even if they try to ridicule Taehyung, no one can deny the gestures they repeat only among themselves. On the show Are You Sure?, something very evident caught our attention from the beginning. Every time Taehyung appeared, Jungkook changed his behavior. Before Taehyung arrived, he was often seen using his cell phone or isolated, but the moment Taehyung entered the scene, Jungkook began to behave differently. He stopped using his phone as much, he seemed more present, and his gestures were frequently directed toward Taehyung. This wasn't a one-time occurrence, but a consistent pattern over several recordings. One can also recall a specific moment when Jungkook was caught talking on his cell phone, and many noticed that right after Taehyung appeared, Jungkook was happier. These are small actions that together create a bigger story, a story where Jungkook's behavior is deeply influenced by Taehyung, no matter who is watching. In Are You Sure?, there were multiple moments that left clear signs. Although many fans insist on denying these moments, the truth is they can't explain the reason for the energy between Taehyung and Jungkook. Because it's not just a single video, nor a single attitude, but a long list of actions that add up over the years. In this program, as in many others, TAEKOOK was not only present, but united. Taehyung's presence visibly transformed Jungkook's attitude. And that, for those who pay attention, can't be ignored. Although many try to ignore it, Jungkook always reacts quickly when Taehyung is at risk. His instinct to protect him appears even in the simplest moments, like when he slipped. One of the clearest signs that demonstrate the relationship between Taehyung and Jungkook is the way Jungkook is always attentive to Taehyung's movements and physical well-being. The clearest example was that moment when Taehyung slipped and fell to the ground. As soon as that happened, Jungkook's immediate reaction was to carefully observe the floor and start jumping on it to make sure it wasn't slippery, wanting to prevent Taehyung from falling again. This kind of reaction isn't planned or rehearsed. It's an instinct that only arises when there's a strong bond between two people. Jungkook didn't think twice before acting. Instead of continuing with what they were doing, he preferred to check with his own feet that the place was safe for Taehyung. This indicates that, for him, the most important thing at that moment was protecting Taehyung. Furthermore, this type of gesture isn't something you see with others. He only does it with him. It's not part of a role or something he repeats in other situations outside of Taehyung. This care appears many times. Whenever something involves Taehyung, Jungkook is always attentive. Whether during filming, behind the scenes, or even in everyday activities, Jungkook finds ways to show that he wants to make sure Taehyung is okay. The way he acts makes it clear that their relationship goes beyond what is visible. Over time, the bond between Taehyung and Jungkook has generated many different reactions. When they show closeness, some react with joy, while others do so with rejection. This has happened many times, and yet Taehyung and Jungkook haven't changed the way they behave towards each other. It doesn't matter if there are cameras or thousands of people watching, their attitude remains the same. They don't pretend, they don't hide it, they don't tone it down. This makes it clear that what exists between them is something real, and that it doesn't depend on whether someone is watching or not. Often, when a moment occurs between the two, even if it's very brief or wordless, people who don't accept that bond try to attack it. Some do so with criticism, others make up rumors, and still others simply ignore what happened. The interesting thing is that all of this happens because they can't accept the obvious. There is so much desperation to deny the bond between Taehyung and Jungkook that they dedicate themselves to inventing new stories every time they show closeness. A very clear example of this is how, every time a TAEKOOK moment goes viral, many people rush to explain it away with excuses or compare it to other dynamics. But excuses don't change the fact, Taehyung and Jungkook have a connection that doesn't follow scripts. They don't need long words to make it clear that they're connected. And that's what bothers those who can't accept it the most. While Jikookers often look for ways to justify why Taehyung and Jungkook are so close, Taekookers focus on carefully analyzing all those gestures that confirm what they already know. And it's not about seeing what you want to see, but rather about noticing what's happening openly, how they look at each other, how they get closer, how they touch when no one asks or expects it. There's one thing that repeats itself in almost every public appearance Taehyung and Jungkook make together: their gestures. They aren't ordinary gestures anyone would make with just anyone. They're physical signs that show emotional closeness, physical comfort, and a trust not seen with other members. When these gestures are observed calmly and analyzed without prejudice, it's clear that there's more than just closeness between them. For example, one of the most frequent behaviors is how they touch each other without any discomfort. Jungkook often settles into Taehyung's body without worrying about the cameras, and vice versa. They lean back, lean their heads, arrange their hair, and hold hands without nervousness. This type of physical contact isn't common among people who only share a job or a group. There's a security in these touches that can't be faked. Another point is how they search for each other with their eyes. When they're at an event or on a stage with a lot of people, the two seem to have a special connection that keeps them attentive to what the other is doing. If one laughs, the other reacts. If one is distracted, the other looks at them. These are couple patterns. It's not a single, isolated gesture. It's a routine they've repeated for years, even in moments when there were no official cameras, but attentive fans who have documented everything. Also, something very interesting is that many of these gestures only appear when they're together. Taehyung doesn't repeat these actions with everyone, nor does Jungkook with any other member. This reinforces the idea that these gestures are natural, not part of a script or an act. There's a difference between touching out of habit and touching out of affection. In both, the touch shows real affection. There's something special happening between Taehyung and Jungkook, and it shows in the way they look at each other and care for each other. They don't need to talk or explain what they feel. Their gestures, reactions, and small details show that they are connected in a way that can't be broken. Although many people ignore it or try to explain it in other ways, the truth is there. Whenever one needs the other, they appear without being asked. This has been seen many times, like when Taehyung slipped and Jungkook reacted without hesitation. But beyond that specific moment, there is a repetition of actions that always revolve around them. Jungkook moves differently when he's with Taehyung. He walks closer, looks more, touches more often. He does all of this without thinking, which shows that their connection isn't part of a script. It's real and constant. Some people believe these attitudes are normal or that everyone has them, but Taehyung fans have noticed that Jungkook doesn't act the same way with anyone else. His gestures are gentle, detailed, and always focused on Taehyung's well-being. What stands out most is that he doesn't seem to be seeking attention. He doesn't look at the cameras, he doesn't wait for applause. He just cares for Taehyung because he feels it's necessary. Many have also tried to use the term fan service to explain what happens between them, but that doesn't make sense when it comes to details that aren't meant to be entertaining. An example is how Jungkook arranges the environment so that Taehyung is comfortable or safe. This isn't done by someone who just wants to please an audience. It's done by someone who wants the other person to be okay in any situation. This connection is also evident in their expressions. Sometimes, a glance between them is enough to change the atmosphere. It's not forced. It appears even when they're not in front of cameras. The same goes for repeated gestures, such as looking for each other with their eyes, touching each other without fear, or staying close even when they're not speaking. When we observe how Taehyung and Jungkook behave in public, one thing always stands out: their way of communicating without words. They don't need to make statements to make clear what's going on between them. They do so through small gestures, natural touches, glances that last longer than usual, and unplanned approaches. All of this happens even when they're surrounded by cameras, other group members, or outsiders. This freedom in their behavior shows that they have no fear or need to hide what they feel. It's very clear that they're not acting. The way their bodies orient themselves toward each other, how Jungkook looks for Taehyung even when there are many people around, how Taehyung doesn't move away even when he knows he's being recorded, this is something that only happens when two people have a strong bond. There's no sign of discomfort or distance. On the contrary, everything they do points to a relationship built on constant closeness. Some might think these gestures are part of a show, but the truth is, they appear at times when there's no reason to pretend. Sometimes they happen during filming, but other times they happen off camera, or when they think no one is watching. The way Jungkook touches Taehyung isn't mechanical or exaggerated, it's natural, as if he can't help it. The way Taehyung responds isn't restrained either, but free, without worrying about what others might think. This isn't about interpreting nonsense, but about seeing repeated patterns. When the same actions are repeated in different contexts and times, they cease to be coincidences. They become self-evident. The look Taehyung gives Jungkook when he laughs, the way Jungkook leans closer to Taehyung even when there are other people between them, the time they spend staring at each other in silence, all of this reveals an intimacy that needs no justification.